Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Smith. It's Friday, Paraskevia. Today we're looking at the fifth noun declination in Georgian, where the object shows that you've used it to achieve something with it, through it, by the use of it. Again, we're going to explore when it's not a person doing it, but a thing enacts on a thing, which can then round off how the instrumental case is used, how it's recognized, and what it really means. So, if you're ready, let's go. Let's begin with my Instagram post, and of course the topic of today is the instrumental case. Now, this fifth brunva, the fifth case, talks about how mainly we want to achieve an action like a surgeon wants to do surgery, brain surgery. He needs a scalpel. He needs tools. He needs instruments. And with that instrument, the surgeon performs the operation. So we can see how important that tool was. A surgeon and a patient and an operation, there's an instrument there. In Georgian, it's highlighted with the suffix it normally. It shows us that the thing, in this case I used a scalpel, was the instrument which the surgeon used to perform the operation. We perform many operations. We travel to Georgia. That's one of the reasons why we have this image in the middle. This is David Achma Shenebeli. Now, Shenebeli are simply builders. Achma Shenebeli was the name that was given to David IV, the king of Georgia, for rebuilding, restoring, and to some extent consolidating the Georgian kingdom with his crown. So he's pretty famous for defining the borders, also because it was the time when Georgia was from the Black Sea, as we can see here, to the Caspian Sea. It was under his reign. So it really is the forebearer for the golden age of Georgia, which links a lot to the video we saw last week where we talked about Tamar Mepe. This is David Achma Shenebeli. Now, one more thing is that the airport in Kutaisi in the center of Georgia is named after him. So if you do fly to Georgia, you're going to see David the Builder Airport. And so if you haven't known anything about why it's called David the Builder Airport, well, he's from Kutaisi. The building he has in his hand is the Gelati Monastery, which is in Kutaisi. And so this Kutaiseli man, king, built a lot of things. And through his deeds, his Mokmedeb-it-i, through his actions, Georgia became powerful. And what I like about it is that this is the name. We don't say instrumental in Georgian, do we? Like instrumentuli. That would just be too easy. This is Mokmedeb-it-i. Mokmedeba are deeds, your deeds, right? Your actions, the operations that you've performed. So Mokmedeb-it-i, the name of the brunva contains the suffix of the brunva, which a geek like me loves. And of course, this is the first brunva at the end, because this is a nominative noun formed from Mokmedeba, we lose the A, Mokmedeb-it, instrumental case, Mokmedeb-it-i, a new name formed from the acts, with acts, and so on. It will become clearer to you. One final thing I'd like to mention is, of course, one of the reasons why we're looking at this. Now, I've decided to, on the second part of our video tutorial, to look at how a virus is or isn't transmitted through or with or by other agents in common. The virus must travel from A to B. In fact, in the examples that we're going to be using with David the Builder, his airport, you travel to Georgia from A to B. Do you go by foot? Your foot is the instrument, pechit. Do you go by plane? Tvitmprinavit. Now the noun in the first brunva is tvitmprinavi, that's just a plane, but you went by plane. The plane was the instrument that you flew to Georgia and you landed in David the Builder's airport. And so one other thing as well is that during this presentation, we are going to be looking at posters which I was given permission to use for our classes by Tbilisi Pride, who this month have launched a massive campaign to remove the myth and the stigma of HIV transmission. The idea, of course, is that it's to educate people about how HIV is transmitted or not transmitted. Every single poster they created was written in the instrumental case. It really got my attention, and I asked them if I could use their material for today's class. I got their permission, so there's going to be a twofold description of the instrumental case today. How it is used in the method of transport, and then how it is used as it transports a virus. As we can see, the transportation element is a key element to the instrumental case. We don't necessarily say that I'm writing with a pen to transport that image, and I write down my letter. But we could see that there is an action with a tool that creates another action, and that would be with the pen relative to the instrumental case. They're indicated with it and so on. So as we go through our examples, you'll be able to see. Another thing as well is Hutasilari. This is a very famous banknote. No, these are the kuponi, but this one's quite famous for being a myth. No one's ever seen one. No one's ever touched one. No one's ever owned one. It's sort of there, but not there. And so this is quite an interesting thing, because as we do the second part of our class, we're going to be talking about the myths associated with HIV transmission. So we've got myths and legends, actions and actors, David Agma Shenabeli. So hopefully when we go to our next slide with some practice, you'll have a better idea of what's coming. Let's practice with a dialogue. And I went to Yerevan. And you asked me, how did I get there? Because as you can see from this map, there are a few ways to get there. You could ride a bike. I think that's a bit weird. You could walk, which I think would take days. You could fly. You could take a train. There's many instruments that you could use to get there. So I say to you, Gasul quiras erevanshi vikhavi. Gasul quiras erevanshi vikhavi. And you ask me, Riti imogzaure mankanit. How did you travel there? By car, mankanit. And here we can see this riti and this it, just that flip-flop that we saw in the last week, that sometimes these suffixes actually do flip over in certain cases. But in the question, riti imogzaure, how did you travel? Mankanit, did you travel by car? And my answer was pechit. Maybe I'm being really sarcastic. By foot, pechit. And then you say pechit, by foot. And I say, of course I didn't. No, I went by plane. Ratkamaunda ada twitmprinavit tsavedi. Twitmprinavit tsavedi. So here we've got mankanit, pechit, twitmprinavit are the instruments by which I traveled to Yerevan. Let's start part two with our posters, and here we see a girapi, and at the top we've got what we need to translate. It says that HIV/AIDS doesn't transmit through, this is our fifth ბრუნვა, by or with bites. Νακბენი-ით, with bites. Now, of course, we're talking about animal and insect bites. And so here it's using the fourth ბრუნვა, which is the content of next week's class. So if you don't get it now, don't worry too much. But ცხოველები, animal. ცხოველებis, an or. მწერების, ნაკბენით. So აივე შიცი არ გადადის ცხოველების ან მწერების ნაკბენით. The bites, you cannot transmit HIV through or with the instrument of insect bites or animal bites. So we can see here, not only is this transmitting some information to us, but we can clearly see with no instrument, we will not get the virus. And so we are now removing the myth associated with that, because that's what some people do believe. And that was the objective of Tbilisi Pride. And one of the reasons why I'm quite pleased and proud to be able to share their work in our workshops. The next poster teaches us another message. This one is about sharing. Gaziareba. Gaziareba is the verb, now a noun. So it's the sharing, the act of sharing. Again, an act. Okay? Mokmedeb-it-i. Gaziarebit. Gaziareba is our noun. So what? Sharing what? So it's sikhvarulis. Again, our fourth ბრუნვა, our genitive ბრუნვა, sharing love. So, aive სიცი არ გადადის სიყვარულის gaziareba. Sharing love in this case means holding someone, hugging someone, even kissing someone. You're not going to transmit HIV that way. Ar gadadis sikhvarulis gaziareba. The next one, of course, got my attention because it's very much similar to the aesthetic of my channel and some of the words that we've already used. So using, of course, we gave an example that you can't use Georgian lari in Europe. Gamokheneba is the noun formed from use. Gamokheneba as a noun. Ganokhenebit, our instrumental noun, with the use of sakvebis, foodstuffs, sairto sakvebis, regular foodstuff, common stuff that you find on the table, the salt, maybe the bread to share, the pepper. None of those things can transmit HIV, we know that, but however, it is still one of the most destructive myths out there. So, let's just take another look at it. Aive sitsi ar gadadis sairto sakvebis gamokhenebit. And we can see them there. Clearly, they don't believe the lies. The last one today, I've saved the best till last, just made me smile. It's so good. The main message is that touching doesn't transmit HIV. The reason why I like it is because this is one of the biggest myths and it needs to end. The way they achieved this was taking two Pirosmani paintings that I have seen and then they're holding hands. I thought it was really cute. The concept here, of course, is a shekheba. Shekheba is touching, the act of touch. So that's our noun. Shekhebit, with touching, or perhaps by touching. So, aive shitsi ar gadadis shekhebit. Shekhebit, sitsi ar gadadis. Touching doesn't transmit HIV. That's the last slide of today, and with that knowledge, next week we're going to look at the genitive case, the fourth case in Georgian noun declination systems, and we're going to see more or less how easy it can be. So, have a nice weekend, and I'll see you then. Bye.